Hello everyone and welcome to today's Cyber Choices webinar. I'm Emir and I work for Tarian as a police officer. My role involves trying to help young people make the correct cyber choices, and I work within the Cybercrime unit alongside Free Buckler and Ellis Power. Unfortunately, there are an increasing amount of young people getting involved in cybercrime without realising that they're breaking the law. Research by the National Crime Agency a few years ago showed that the average age of a cyber criminal is around 17 years old. This is far lower than traditional crime types. So what are law enforcement doing to try and prevent this problem? Well, the aim of today's presentation is to raise awareness of the law around the Computer Misuse Act and to signpost young people to places where you can further develop your skills and interests in a responsible manner. This webinar is a fantastic opportunity to bring together police officers and staff from Tarian, Dyfed-Powys Police, Gwent Police and South Wales Police cybercrime units. We are also very thankful to Mark Jones and his team of ethical hackers from the DVLA who are going to give us a fascinating insight into their work. There will be an opportunity for you to ask any question at the end of today's presentation, and we will show you where you can contact us for advice and guidance in relation to any of the matters that we discussed during today's presentation. Firstly, I will hand you over to Ree Buckler, who will give an overview of Tarian so that you know who we are and what we do.
Hi, I'm Ree. Did you know that Tarian is the Welsh word for shield, and we are the regional organised crime unit for the Southern Wales area. We've been set up to identify, disrupt and dismantle serious and organised crime groups that are operating in our region. These are the groups of people that can cause our communities the most harm. There are 10 regional organised crime units and 43 police forces, all with dedicated cyber choices.
Hello, I'm Ellis, and as Emma said, I work for Tarian. The Cyber Choices is a programme delivered by the Regional and Local Cyber Choices Network, which is coordinated by the National Crime Agency. And what this does is it tries to deter and divert individuals from being involved in crime and encourage these people to make positive choices. Now, people with an interest, talent or curiosity in gaming, coding or other cyber-related disciplines might find themselves in a position where they've unknowingly broken the law. And we want to prevent this, and this is why we take a different approach to combating cybercrime. These individuals have excellent skills which they could put to positive use and potentially even earn a lot of money from making a career in cyber. Next up is Kate Lloyd from Gwent Police.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. My name's Kate and I'm the Cyber Protect and Prevent Officer at Gwent Police. So what does my job as the Cyber Protect and Prevent Officer involve? So the protect side of it, that is protecting communities, businesses, charities, victims, anyone, making them aware of the threats that are out there and helping them to put measures in place so that they can protect themselves. And then the prevent side of it, that would be working with young individuals like yourselves so that I can help you to make the right cyber choices and also make you aware of all of the amazing opportunities that are out there.
Okay, so what is cybercrime? Cybercrime is the umbrella term for offences that either take place online or where technology is used as a means or target for the attack. So cybercrime is split into two categories. So the first one we've got is cyber-enabled crime. So when we talk about cyber-enabled, these are more traditional crimes that are obviously enhanced and committed online, but they are traditionally offline. So examples of these would be stealing identity, making online threats, cyberbullying and selling illegal items. So then the second is cyber-dependent crime. So this crime is where technology is necessary to commit the crime. So this includes things such as the distribution of malware, a DDoS attack, so distributed denial of service attack. This is overloading computers or servers by controlling multiple computers or bots and sending lots of different messages at the same time. Hacking into systems which you do not have permission to access, and then ransomware attacks. So the Computer Misuse Act was introduced in 1990 in order to criminalise unauthorised access to computer systems. So some of you might already be aware of it if you did take part in the Matrix Challenge that we did earlier this year, or you might have already covered it in school. So I'm just going to cover the 5 different sections of the Act, starting with section 1 as you can see on the screen. So section 1 is unauthorised access to computer materials. So an example of this would be if you used your friend's login details without their permission to access their computer. So some of you might be thinking, I've done this before, but on a serious note, in some cases where this has happened, it has been referred to Tarian. So the maximum sentence for this is up to 2 years and or a fine. So section 2 is the next part of the Computer Misuse Act, and that is unauthorised access with intent to commit or facilitate commission of further offences. So an example of this would be you leave your tablet on the sofa and without your permission, someone accesses your online shopping account and orders something for themselves with your credit card. Now, the maximum sentence for this offence is up to 5 years and or a fine. Okay, so next we're moving on to section 3 of the Act. So this is unauthorised access with intent to impair or with recklessness as to impairing operation of a computer. So this is without a doubt one of the most prominent offences that young people we've encountered do carry out without realising that they are breaking the law. So an example of this is Sarah's playing an online game, her friend scores higher than her, so she uses a booter tool to knock them offline and win the game. Now, we have spoken to individuals who have openly admitted doing this with tools online, thinking that it was a bit of fun against their friends and not realising. So we want to prevent this from becoming a regular occurrence, and this is why our aim is to educate young people and to signpost them to places where they can actually use their skills in a responsible way. So in some cases of this offence, pursuit officers working in the cybercrime departments have prosecuted individuals who've carried out this kind of attack. The maximum sentence for this is up to 10 years and or a fine. So the next part of the Computer Misuse Act is the section 3ZA, which is unauthorised acts causing or creating risk of serious damage. So as you can see, an example of this is Kim hacks onto a police network. This results in delays to emergency calls, and even though it was not her intention, she was reckless in her actions. So the sentence for this is up to 14 years and or a fine. And as you can see underneath, unless it is a serious risk or actual harm to national security or human welfare, in which case this could be up to life imprisonment. So the fifth part of the Computer Misuse Act is section 3A, which is making, supplying or obtaining articles for use in another Computer Misuse Act offence. So someone downloads software so that they can bypass login credentials and hack into their friend's laptop, although they haven't had a chance to use it yet. And this is a crime of specific intent, so that people in this instance may not have even used the software, but they did in fact intend to hack into someone's computer. Therefore, they would be guilty of the offence, and the maximum sentence of this is up to 2 years and or a fine. Finally, let's look at the reasons why people might commit cyber-dependent crime. So someone might not think they'll get caught. They could be doing it for a joke, perhaps. They might even do it to be liked by others, by their friends. Maybe schoolwork isn't hard enough for them. They might do it as a challenge, perhaps, or to test out their skills. And two other reasons are perhaps financial gain and also the availability of online tools and tutorials telling you how to do it.
Hi there, I'm Gareth Jordan and I'm a Detective Constable with Dyfed-Powys Police, and my job within Dyfed-Powys Police is to investigate cybercrimes. What I want to do today is to just take you through some of the areas of where we see people getting into trouble on the internet, certainly getting into trouble with the police, and where you need to start thinking about, are you starting to cross that line? Because what I don't want to happen to you is for you to come to my attention and that I am then going to be arresting you interviewing you, and could be that you actually get a criminal record because of it. And you could even do serious jail time depending on what you've done. So if you think you're not going to get caught because you're doing computer crimes, think again. There's a very good possibility nowadays that if someone's done a computer crime, they will be found by the police. Okay then, here we are, Dyfed Police, with that big green bit in the middle of the map there. It comprises of 4 different divisions there that we have. What we're starting to see more and more is that we're getting more and more criminals utilising the internet. And what we're trying to do today is make sure that you don't become that person behind the desk there, because that person behind the desk there causes an awful lot of problems, and we will do everything we can to try and catch them. So what is it that that person's done to get to the stage that he's at? Well, when we start looking at how people get into cybercrime, there's quite a few different ways, but if you start thinking about things like computer gaming, online gaming, computer gaming cheats, well, we're starting to get more and more into areas now where you might start thinking, oh, maybe I'm starting to get into the area of criminality here. Well, most likely not at this stage. However, once you start to get to computer gaming modification and then hacking, forums, all sorts of stuff, minor crime to beat the system, well, I'm pretty sure you're actually into it at this stage. And then minor crime, cybercrime for financial gain, all the way through to serious cybercrime. If you look back on that's where the person's crossed the line, is the computer gaming modification. And when you start modding a game and it's against the distributor's wishes or the software manufacturer's wishes, then you have crossed the line. It's important to remember that's not all gamers are going to be cyber criminals, and not all cyber criminals are gamers, but it just shows some of the areas where you might be thinking about getting into, I don't know, another area, and maybe you need to start thinking about, actually, are you now getting to a stage where you're crossing that line, as we talked about before? So one of the things we actually do is to make people aware that cybercrime is not victimless. It's often seen that way, specifically, especially by young people. And I think that, you've got to start thinking about the financial impacts. There's a whole host of financial impact. It could be that there's a victim that has to pay a ransom. They have to gain access to the most important files they own. They will go and try and borrow money from family. It might be that they actually start to look at doing some crime themselves just so that they can get payment for the financial loss that they're suffering. And that brings about the emotional impact, because victims suffering emotional consequences, they're going to feel embarrassed about what's happened. They might not even be able to speak about it to others, and they're going to feel really guilty they've done something wrong themselves. And that can even lead to problems in terms of their physical health. And the physical health means that they could be feeling stressed, they could become depressed, long-term health issues, and even sometimes we've got to a stage where people are taking their own lives. So think about, from the very start there of being a victimless crime, what you've seen so far. And then when you start looking at businesses, it could even close that business. It could lose an awful lot of their assets because of it. It could be damaging their reputation because of it. And even just fixing the issue itself could be the end of that business, because they can't afford to do it. They might not have had decent backups. They might not have had the ability to have the IT to come in and help them get over a particular problem that's been caused them from cybercrime. And the damage to reputation is immeasurable. If you knew of a site that had been hacked and had gone down, how likely are you to trust that site in the future? Now, I said a little bit in my piece at the start of this. You could receive a visit and a warning from the police. You could have your devices seized. You could even get to a stage where you're being banned or limited in your internet use. And if you get to that stage, you're starting to look at possibility of being expelled from school, or might even be that you're not going to be able to go and do the degree or the actual learning qualification that you were looking forward to doing. And you might not be able to get the job that you want eventually. Sometimes we can put in travel restrictions, or countries might not want you because of the fact you have a criminal record. And it could be all of that. So what you've got to start thinking about is it legal or is it illegal? Think about the fact that a criminal record could affect your education, your future, career prospects. Start thinking about, do you know the law? Do you know the limits? And you're at a stage now in your lives where you need to know that.
Hello, my name's Claire Perrin and I'm a Cyber Protect Officer for South Wales Police. I work in a dedicated cybercrime unit alongside a team of detectives and a detective sergeant who manages that team. And together we respond to 100% of all the cybercrimes that are reported to South Wales. We investigate those crimes and we also prosecute those crimes. But we also educate. Working in cybercrime is really, really exciting. No 2 days are ever the same. So let's have a look at some of the ways you can get involved, or maybe even get into the industry.
So, there are lots of ways you can get started and get the help you need. There are fantastic resources that can be used for free. The National Crime Agency, the NCA, have got together with an online resource called Immersive Labs in the centre of the screen, which helps young people like yourself to learn and develop cybersecurity skills. It's great because it has over 100 practice exercises called labs, where you can learn some of the core skills for a range of jobs, including cyber investigator, digital forensic expert, network security analyst, etc. They're designed for 13 to 18-year-olds, and you can work through them at your own pace. There's also Digital Cyber Academy, which offers free training. Or if you like competing, there's cybersecuritychallenge.org.uk. You can try your hacking skills legally and ethically at Hack the Box, which is a brilliant platform to advance pen testing, cybersecurity skills and much more. So let's have a think about how cyber skills and interests can be developed lawfully and what you can do later on with those skills. There are so many opportunities. There's a huge skills gap in the cyber industry. Skills you have in coding or gaming or computer program or anything IT related really are in really, really high demand. There are so many career opportunities available to you if you just have an interest in this area. Have a look at the average salary per year for those working in the industry. I mean, heads of cybersecurity earn 6-figure salaries. That's more than most head teachers. On screen now are just a few career options in the cyber industry for you to think about. On the left is games developer. Do you like gaming? Well, you're not alone if you do. It might just be a hobby right now, but have you thought about making it your career? Whether it's the creative side of gaming, game programming, or testing and developing these games, these jobs all need cyber skills. On the right of your screen is software engineer. We already looked at their salary, but if you're tempted by this and you don't really feel like you've got all the skills you need just yet, did you know you could get a traineeship? This will help you gain the skills and the experience you need. Have a look at the government website, gov.uk, and just search traineeship. You can also get an apprenticeship through college websites, or you can just check out findapprenticeship.service.gov.uk. Another thing worth thinking about is that many companies out there offer bug bounties. These are schemes that offer financial incentives for hackers who find and report back on vulnerabilities in their systems. It's a great way to test your skills, and you get paid for doing so. And before I go, I want to remind you that whether you're interested in a career in cyber or not, please choose the legal path. Just remember 2 things. 1, don't access anyone else's computer, device, network, or account without their permission. And 2, don't do anything that stops someone else's computer, network, or device working properly without the owner's permission.
Hi, I'm Mark, and thank you to Tarian for asking me to speak to you today. Now, I work in the DVLA and I'm the head of ethical hacking services, and I also run DVLA's STEM program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you today just a little bit about what ethical hacking is and some of the opportunities that are available for anyone who is interested in cybersecurity. So I run a team at DVLA whose job is to test the security of DVLA systems and services. So what is ethical hacking? Our job is to run security tests and to try and break into computer systems. We do it to try and find gaps in security, try and get access to computers, and then to help businesses to fill those gaps. And by doing this, we help to keep everyone's information safe. We use the same tools and techniques as an attacker would, and we try to gain access and take control of systems in the same way. And we do 3 types of testing. There's white, grey, and black box testing. So white box testing means that we have all the information that we need about the service before we start. Grey box means that we have some of the information but not all of it, and black box means that we have no information at all. Now, most of the work that we do involves simulating what an attacker would do, so we tend to use black box testing more than anything else. And we have to find everything about the system for ourselves in exactly the same way that an attacker would. Then what's the difference between criminals and ethical hackers? Well, we do it to protect the organizations that we work for by finding the holes in their security before attackers do and helping them and the company to fill those holes. Criminals do it just for their own benefit. Ethical hackers always have written permission to do it because the owners of the system have asked us to do it. Without that, we'd be criminals too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a clip of a demonstration cyber attack. Now, even doing this as a demo is illegal unless you have the owner's permission. So do not try to do this at home or you could be breaking the law. Okay, so everything that you're about to see here is a real weakness or a bad configuration that's been found on a machine in the past somewhere. We've brought them all together just to show you a demo of how an attack could work. Now, there's a lot of waiting involved when you're waiting for scans to finish, so we've removed all that just to speed things up a bit. And I'm not going to talk all the way through this, I'm just going to let you watch it and bring out some certain pieces. So it starts off with a very simple IP address scan to find out what IP addresses are available on the network. And once the attackers found those, what they'll do is they'll start to do a scan for open ports and services. And as you can see, that scan's already come back with quite a few ports already. Now that that scan's finished, what the attacker's doing is simply working from the first service that you've found and working their way through to find out as much information as possible about how this machine is configured. By checking each of these ports one by one and looking at the responses, it can give away a huge amount of information about the configuration of the machine and whether or not it's actually a weakness in the system. And what they're doing here is just looking at some very, very basic default usernames and passwords just to try and get a connection into the server. At the top of the screen there you can see port 80. Now port 80 is a web server. So what the attacker's doing is basically just looking at the web server to see what's there. Now attackers have got a huge number of tools that they can use to find information. And one of the things that you're going to see them doing right now is using a tool which is used to look for hidden files and folders which sit on servers. one of the things that you'll see here is that there is actually a password inside this. Now, these types of things often happen because developers will often leave comments inside their code and then forget to remove them before they put it live. So what you've got here is a web page that allows somebody to do a simple trace on an IP address. This is a legitimate piece of software and it's supposed to be there. But because the input isn't being checked properly, we can get it to run more than one command at a time. So as you can see, it's just done another command and it's pulled back all of the user accounts on that server. So now that the attacker has all these usernames and the password that they found earlier, they can use an attack called a brute force attack, which basically tests all of the usernames they've found with that single password. And the idea is to try and get what's called a foothold, which is a single login into the server. As you can see, that's worked. So now that the attacker has a real login onto the server, the objective is to take full control. Now, a common technique for doing this is to use badly configured software that's already installed on the server to do it. The majority of cyber attacks are successful because of badly configured security or because of missing security patches. Now, these can give an attacker an entry point into the system, and the owner may never know. So what you've just seen is an attack done in exactly the same way as if it was done by a cyber criminal. The tools that were used were the same, the techniques that were used were the same, and the outcome is the same. Now, as I said before, don't try this at home. But in this case, this was a legal security test instead of a criminal attack. And the reason is, first, it's my server and I gave the attacker permission to do it. And secondly, the attacker is Jasmine, and she works on my team as an ethical hacker, obviously when she's not being a superhero. But she's just shown you part of what her day is all about. Jasmine's typical day sees her investigating and trying to find new and inventive ways to bypass security. She has permission to do all this, and it's all completely legal, and every test that she does helps us to keep our organization safe. So you see, there's a much better career path than becoming a criminal, and that's to become an ethical hacker, and we're going to need a lot more of them. Ethical hackers are highly skilled and highly paid, so you'd think there'd be loads of people out there doing this type of work already, but there aren't. And that's because there's a massive skills gap of cybersecurity professionals, not only in Wales, but across the UK. Now, one of the reasons for this is that people who are interested in doing this type of work don't know how to get started in it, and it can be difficult to learn in a safe and legal way. So DVLA started working with Tarian, and we've come up with the Ethical Hacking Development Programme. Now, this was to raise awareness, give people the opportunity to start a career in cybersecurity, and help to reduce the national skills gap. The workshops help to provide the basic skills and legal knowledge, which will help anyone who wants to apply for places on any apprenticeship program with any company. If you get an apprenticeship with us, you'll work with us for 2 years, gain a level 3 or 4 qualification. You'll get real experience and mentoring by people like Jasmine and the rest of my team to teach you how to do it. You'll learn the legal things you need to know, and of course, you'll get really well paid while you're learning. At the end of the apprenticeship, we could offer you a permanent job as an ethical hacker.
Check out Cyber Choices. It's a brilliant website and it's run by the NCA, the National Crime Agency. And if you've got any questions or if you want some more information about this, you can contact us. The details are on the screen now.
The more we connect, the more we need to protect. And we're going to need more and more ethical hackers to test these systems and keep our data safe in the future. So, make the right choice, and in the future, we could be talking about when you start your apprenticeship with us.
So don't mess things up for yourself. Don't get it to a stage where someone like myself is knocking on your door with a search warrant, comes in, arrests you, takes all your equipment away, and is then interviewing you, and you then facing possible jail time and certainly a criminal record just for the sake of you going slightly too far. Because if you go to an employer at a later stage and you have a criminal record, they are not going to want you.
I haven't always worked in this industry. This is completely new for me and I'm so pleased that I took the jump. So I do recommend it as it's a really exciting and important industry to be working in.
Thank you for listening, and I hope the webinar will help you in making the right cyber choices. Please feel free to ask us any question you like.